The African Christian Democratic Party is the latest party to join the Multiparty Charter. We speak to its president, the Reverend Dr Kenneth Meshoe. Welcome, Doctor.
Good morning, Chris, and good morning to all the listeners and viewers.
Doctor, why did you not initially want to join the Multiparty Charter?
Well, I have to take you back to the days of the Moonshot Pact. You know that the ACDP was not part of the Moonshot Pact, and there were a number of reasons why we refused to be part of that. Firstly, we did not like the approach that as members of the then coalition in local government, we were not informed about the plans to start this Moonshot Pact. We just heard it announced by Mr. Steenhuisen, and our members obviously asked questions about what is Moonshot Pact? What is Moonshot? Because that is terminology that is not used in South Africa. So it was a term that was imported from whoever, suggested by whoever, and we did not want to be part of that because, as you know, that South Africa has a number of official languages. People wanted to know in Sotho, what is Moonshot Pact? In Zulu, what is Moonshot Pact? And obviously, nobody knew, nobody had an answer for that. And so we said, no, we don't want to be part of this animal we don't know. That was the first reason, that we were not informed. So we said we are being treated like schoolboys. The headmaster speaks, and all the schoolboys just have to act accordingly. So we said, no, cannot be part of that. If we want to talk about coalition, we must level the playing field. We must talk as partners, discuss issues as partners, and make agreements. That was the first main reason why we did not want to be part of that. And secondly, we said coalitions normally are formed after the elections, not before the elections, because you need to know the strength of each party that you cannot foretell before the elections. So we said, no, we don't want to talk about coalitions before elections. Moonshot Pact was about making a coalition before the elections. We said, no, we cannot be part of that. And thirdly, we asked the question, if you want to form this pact before the elections, whose policies are you going to promote? Because you have different political parties with different policies. And now if you want to present yourself as one before elections, which policies are you going to promote? So we said, no, we can't be part of that because we want to represent our members. We want to promote our policies before the elections. Let South Africans vote for those whose policies they agree with. That was our position, and it still stands. But the other thing maybe that I should conclude with was that you remember that Mr. Steenhuisen that time said the EFF is public enemy number one, and we want to treat them as such. And so in the ACDP we said, no, we do not agree with a politics of enemies. As you know, in South Africa, there are eliminations for political reasons, there are assassinations for political reasons, and so we do not want to be regarded as enemies of any party, and we don't want to regard any party as our enemy. Our contestation is about policies and not enemies. We don't want enemies. So these were basically the reasons why we said, no, we cannot be part of that. We have members who live in the townships. As you know, that politicians and councillors in particular are being killed in South Africa. They are assassinated. We also lost a councillor who was shot, sadly, while he was preaching in church, as a number of our councillors and members are even pastors were involved in church. So because of how we saw local councillors treated, we said, no, the politics of enemies, we don't want it. Okay, now we rejected that. And obviously many people, our members, saluted us. They liked that. But then after this thing failed, because the Moonshot Pact did not take off. It failed. They were planning conferences and all this stuff, which did not take place. Other opposition parties decided to take a different route. Okay? The route was, let us come together and talk about what will happen after the elections and start making maybe rules that will govern the coalitions if they are there, so that we do not have a repeat of what happened in the local councils. So then, this multi-party charter was put together to set up rules and regulations, make agreements on how are we going to operate. And they said, if need be, after the elections, we'll form a coalition. But now we are not a coalition. We are just a group of political parties that are setting the ground, making the rules. This is what we are going to do. This is not what we are going to accept. Okay? And because of it, it was not a coalition, but it was just a forum to discuss and decide on which way to take. How are we going to govern ourselves? We agree. We also want to be part of the rules, because if we don't become part of the rules, we might be bound by rules we don't agree with. So rather than that happens, we said, okay, ACDP, we had to explain to our members first. Okay, we had to explain to our members because we do not want them to think that it is another Moonshot Pact in a different name. Okay, so the approach is totally different. And one of the things that's going to happen now, because of what we've learned in Germany, there's going to be a rotational chairmanship. Chairman is going to rotate from one meeting to the other, one political party to the other. It's not going to be led by one person, as the Moonshot Pact was led by the DA's John Steenhuisen. So that is why we said, no, this makes sense. And a member says, this makes sense. It is not about policies. It's about the rules. And it is not governance, but it is about how we are going to govern if we have to govern.
Please tell us about the trip to Germany. What did you learn there about coalition governments?
The trip to Germany was a massive success. We have seen why and where coalitions in governments are failing and what needs to be changed, what needs to be done. The main speakers who facilitated the meetings and some who just gave presentations, the word trust was very common. That word was used by almost everybody. That you cannot have a successful coalition if you don't trust one another. Political parties, number one, must trust each other, and so that whatever is discussed in the meetings, the agreement should be, it should not go outside the meeting. As you know, that many politicians like being the first one to raise an issue in the media, and we were told that if you want to succeed, and there are differences, those differences must be ironed behind closed doors. And then you have to agree as leaders that what is behind the closed doors is going to remain behind closed doors. We are only going to say what we have agreed we can say out of the meetings. Now, as you know, what has been happening in South Africa, after every meeting, people who just jump, they would be the first in the media to say, no, that this happened. People who just leak out information, which would create unnecessary tensions. So the first important thing we have learned in Germany is trust. We must trust each other. But linked to that, the other important thing, they also came to the importance of making agreements. Now, while in South Africa, after elections, decisions have to be made quickly within 14 days. You must have the president, you must have the premier, you must have mayor and all that stuff. The Germans have sufficient time. They don't have the pressure that we have in South Africa of making coalitions very quickly or within two weeks. So they have time. Even them, after the elections, they say they can spend months discussing how they are going to work. discussing and making agreements, we are going to focus on these policies. And if there are disagreements, we are going to have a committee consisting of different members of the coalition to ensure that difficulties are ironed out. And then again, behind closed doors, nobody should go out and speak on what was confidential. This again raised the issue of trust. We need to trust one another so that if you say and agree in the meeting, nobody's going to talk about this out of the meeting. That agreement is made and everybody knows these people, my colleagues, my partners, are going to honor that. They're going to respect that. So the issue of trust was the first one. And we raised questions as parties from South Africa, because trust here is going to be a major issue. It's going to be a major challenge because of the tendency of some people who just like being the first in the media. They want to be the first to break out the news. Okay, this is what we said, and we agree about that, and we are surprised to see this better in the news. So, but who told this? Who took this up? Because we agreed we are not going to speak out of the meeting, particularly regarding issues where there are disagreements. So the issue of trust might take us some time, might take us some time to resolve, because at this stage, some don't trust one another. As you know, that there are some people who have said, we will never work with this party, we will never work with this party, because you saw how these people are behaving. All right. The issue of trust, very, very important. Agreements. Now, obviously, they commended us. They commended the Multiparty Charter, that even before the elections, that we are talking about making rules, making agreements. And with these agreements, we have to look at where do we agree, which parties are not very, very different or far from each other when it comes to agreements, when it comes to policies. And those that are not far from each other are those that seem like they would make a good partnership. So we look at that before the elections in South Africa, because we don't have much time after elections. Okay, that's the first thing, trust. But then the second important thing that was raised, the importance of respect. We have to respect each other as partners. Now, respect is something that obviously that the ACDP is very strong on, very, very strong on respect. We must respect each other. As you know, that the ACDP speaks about respect for God, number one. Secondly, respect for self. You must respect yourself before you can expect others to respect you. And thirdly, we talk about respect your neighbor, respect your partner, respect the person who's working with you. Okay? And then obviously, fourthly, ACDP says we must also respect property. So now, when we are going to form partnerships, we are going to look at how many agree with respecting property. For example, if I start with the last one, respecting property. We do not want and we do not agree with people who want to burn and destroy property when they disagree. As you know, with the many, many strikes taking place in South Africa, you have a number of political parties. When they go to the streets, you know they're going to ban things. Children who are influenced by some parties, they ban classrooms, they banning and destroying property is a major crisis in South Africa that must be brought to a stop. So we are talking about respecting property. And then before then, we talk about respecting your neighbor, respecting one another. As you know, many times, even in Parliament, when debates are taking place, the speaker will say, order, order, out of order, out of order. You should not treat honorable members like that. You should not use that kind of language. You should not say that. Now, when people use language that is dehumanizing or humiliating, is because of a lack of respect. So they say you must respect one another as parties if you are going to successfully work together. Then obviously, respect for self. We believe in exemplary leadership. And if I have to be an example, I need to respect myself. I need to respect myself. Lastly, obviously, which might not be a big thing, is respect for God. We believe that the nation must respect God if the nation is going to be blessed by the Lord. Obviously, one will have to explain more. What do you mean by that? That might be debated. I'm not sure. But the concept of respecting God for the ACDP is a very, very important one. So respect has also been emphasized a lot in the meetings. You must respect each other as political parties, regardless of size. You don't respect those who are older than you, bigger than you, and those who are bigger than you disrespect you because of your size. They said you must respect each other, something that we all agreed about. And thirdly, they spoke about a commitment. If you decide we are going to work together, commit yourself. Say, I will move stones, I will move hindrances, I will move objects or obstacles, whatever that is going to make this coalition not to work, this partnership not to work. So I commit myself. Now, you know that in some municipalities, we have had parties that are pulling out left and right, pull out. What in 1 month or few weeks, you agree with, form a coalition with the ANC, and then, no, I leave the ANC, and now form a coalition with the other opposition political parties. This has been happening all the time. Why? Because there is no commitment. We have had situations where, during negotiations, a leader of a party would say, what are you offering me? What are you offering me? What position? Which position are you offering me? If you offer me more than what the ANC offers me, I'll go with you. If you offer me this position, I will go with you. But if you don't, I'll move on and see if the ANC will offer me what I want. And if the ANC offers me what I want, then I'm gone. What are you offering me? Now, that is a position and an attitude that is unworkable. And obviously, we ask the questions, what do you do if a coalition partner, political party just decides to move out? They said, well, if that happens, that might necessitate fresh elections. Because if one party moves out and you lose the mandate to govern, then there has to be new elections. They cannot just say, now that we have moved to this party with this group, now this group must take over. That's why coalitions in South Africa were not stable, because you had some people who just jump from one party to the other, and that disorganizing service delivery, hindering service delivery. So their attitude is, if one party or two parties leave, then your government has collapsed. And if your government collapses, flash elections. So I think with this in mind, a number of people will have to make decisions. Do I want fresh elections? What guarantee do I have that with the fresh elections, I will still have the number of seats that I have? Because people out there will know that I'm not reliable. I'm not mature enough to solve problems and to iron out differences. And so if I cannot iron out differences and solve problems, and when there is an obstacle, there is a problem, I jump and run away and find somebody else, then obviously you cannot be reliable. As you know that even in a marriage relationship, there are differences. And if you have one partner who says, if you disagree with me, I'm gone. Imagine what would happen to families. So partners have to agree. We want to make this thing work. We commit ourselves to make this work. So that is what one of the things, again, they encourage us to do, to make sure that you commit yourself to make your coalition or your partnership to work. Okay? Because when you go into a partnership, do not look at what you can get out of the meetings, the agreements personally. It is not about you or your party, but it is about the electorate, the voters. And I think it was very important for us to hear that and to hear them emphasize that coalitions are not about an individual. They are about serving the public. If you say I want to be part of government, you want to be a successful government that will meet the needs of the people. Now, if you are regarded by the voters, the public, as this person cannot be trusted, then with future elections, you're not going to get the support that you are expecting, that we are expecting. Now they have a number of coalitions where something that was also new for us from South Africa, where on a national level, you would have Party A and B forming a coalition. But on a regional or local level, then you have Party A and D, or A and C, okay? A and D, all right, working together. Now, in South Africa, we are expected to, when we form coalition nationally, all municipalities must follow that. There is no flexibility that you can change, obviously, without undermining your policies and your values. But they have that flexibility that even though nationally we are working together very nicely, Party A and D, at the local level, hey, this party that is working well at national level is not doing right. We don't agree with what they are doing. So we discuss with our leadership so that we are allowed on a regional level or on a local level not to form a coalition with this party that nationally we are formed part of, but that will be allowed in the region or in the state or in the province to form a different kind of coalition. The most important thing is to have partners that will work together and improve service delivery. So their emphasis of service delivery is much more than in South Africa, because they say voters are watching us. Voters are expecting us to work together. Voters are expecting services. They don't just want to know which is the biggest party. They want delivery. So delivery should be in the back of your mind, should be in a priority to you, that I'm going into this matter, into this coalition, to form a team, to be part of a team that will improve service delivery. And I think that definitely, if we manage to convince all other parties to follow the examples that we have heard and seen with the German politicians, then South Africa definitely would have better working relationships after the elections.
Lastly, I want to ask you how your party has been performing in by-elections.
Well, by-elections, we have not been performing well. Now, one of the important things I can mention is that the ACDP does not have sponsors like other parties. You see in the media when when reports are given and are made about who is receiving what amount from which organization, you don't see the ACDP there, because we don't have sponsors, private businesses sponsoring us. And we looked into the reasons why, and obviously that has to do with our policies. The ACDP was formed to pursue some policies that are not popular with many people, with funders. We believe in moral integrity. And because of this, some people are saying, actually, some funders have said to me, now we don't agree with the ACDP on this one. That is why we put our money where we believe our values as a funder will also be promoted. So because of this agreement, we don't have sponsors. And as you know that in politics, if you don't have money, you are going nowhere. And that was another issue that was raised in Germany, that trying to raise money so that when you go into coalitions, you are strong enough, you have a stronger financial muscle, so that your voice can be also louder and stronger because of who you are. And obviously, if you have more money, you are able to reach more people. So I think because of the way we have been performing poorly in municipalities, and some of them has been in municipalities where we do not have a good footprint. Some people obviously are gunsfatters, even in the ACDP, and fat guns, taking chances, even though they know that we don't have a strong structure in this area. They still want to take a chance. And that obviously has not worked well for the ACDP. And going into the future, you're going to see changes. You're going to see the ACDP no more contesting by elections, because financially, we are not as strong as many who are competing, and as a result, our footprint is still weaker than the others. And so we don't want to contest against those we know that we don't have proper structures in this area. If you don't have structures, when it comes to party agents that should look at the votes, vote counting and ensuring that there is no cheating and so on, then you lack people who do that for you. You lack party agents, because party agents, as you know, they want to be looked after. You have to transport them, you have to feed them, you have to give them a stipend and so on. Those are some of the things that the ACDP has not been able to do, and as a result, we have performed poorly in by-elections. And I think going forward, we will not participate in by-elections. We will not participate in by-election until financially we are what we want to be. We can afford what others are affording, enough material, voting material, agents who are given stipends, who are given food, transportation, and so on. So without these things, I think the ACDP will stop participating in by-elections until our finances have improved.
Thank you. That was the Reverend Dr. Kenneth Meshoe, the president of the African Christian Democratic Party, speaking to BizNews.